Hey y'all, it is time to talk about season 13 of Degrassi. Yes, we're getting very close to the end. This season, we get an updated intro, and the logo is different. It's very just Degrassi, as they have dropped the next generation at this point, and it seems a little Americanized, a little 90210-esque, at least to me. We also learn that Tori has moved away. And there are quite a few new people. We have Zoe, who used to be an actor on the famous show West Drive in the series. We have Miles and his sister Frankie, and Miles's friend Chewy, also known as Winston. And there's also Grace, who we meet in the rubber room, and Jack, who is a new student. So at the beginning of the season, we have three different things going on. We have kids that are in France on a school trip. We have kids who are back at Degrassi doing summer camp, and we have Claire, who is going through her chemo treatments in the hospital. So starting with Claire, yes, after the biopsy, she found out that she has cancer. And she goes into the hospital to start her treatments. And at first, she takes it really hard, but she has her mom and Eli there to support her. And by the end of the summer, she goes into remission. Moving on to the French trip, we have Allie, Jenna, Connor, Maya, Tristan, and the new kids, Miles, Zoe, and Chewy, all there. Now, with the new kids, we have some boy drama going on between Tristan and Maya and Miles and Zoe. But I want to talk more about Allie, who meets a guy named Leo, and they start dating, and she basically spends the entire trip with him. Leo's a college student, and they say they've fallen in love, and he's even considering transferring to Toronto University in order to be closer to Allie. But unfortunately, towards the end of the trip, he becomes very physically violent with Allie, and that, of course, breaks up their relationship. And because she's going back to Toronto, she should never have to see him again. And then lastly, Imogen, Adam, Drew, and Dallas are all back at Degrassi doing summer camp. Becky and Adam are back together, but Becky goes to Florida. I think it's for a business trip or something. And because she's away and also hanging out with other dudes, Adam gets very jealous and even goes to the extent of hacking into her face range account to talk to some dude. Becky then breaks things off with Adam because of the trust issues there, but Adam is so obsessed and he can't not talk to her. And they go on this trip for camp where they're in the woods and they have no service. And so Adam takes the van and drives to try and get service. Unfortunately, Adam gets into a really bad car accident and he has to get surgery. And on top of all that, unfortunately, he does not make it. And so everyone comes together and does this very beautiful memorial service type thing for him in the park. And I have to say, I probably have not cried that hard since JT died. It was just so extremely sad. And I do have to say, I don't really understand why Adam had to die at all or in this way. I just don't get it. Let's talk about Claire in season 13 of Degrassi. Claire does go through a lot this season as she's starting the school year fresh out of the hospital off of chemo, but she's dealing with the effects of chemo brain. And this makes it hard for her to try and get into the swing of things as she is student council vice president and also trying to keep up with her studies. Now she's doing the long distance thing with Eli, and at first it seems okay, but slowly we start to see um, their rifts in the relationship as they miss each other. They're not talking as much. Eli isn't coming home, and when he is, he's just tired and kind of still focused on all the things that he's doing at school. Eli does come home one time and admits to cheating on Claire. And in the aftermath of that, she's obviously super upset. She ends up kissing Drew, but very quickly gets back with Eli after that happens. And then Claire's in this weird spot where she's with Eli, but their relationship is kind of just completely on the rocks and not the same. She also starts having feelings for Drew, which is wild and very interesting in the least thing that I would think with those two. With both of them being on student council, he's president, she's vice president, they do end up getting very close, and lots of people in the school, even their friends, think that they're together or that they should just get together. So Claire does eventually break up with Eli, and then very shortly after that tries to get with Drew. They even hook up, but Drew's like, I don't want to be a rebound if you're not over him, and so they don't end up getting together at all. So after all of that drama, Claire finally comes to the conclusion that she needs to just figure out life as a single person. All right, let's talk about Allie in season 13 of Degrassi. Allie is coming off of her relationship with Leo as she starts the school year, and she's missing him. And he does end up coming to Toronto and getting a job at the Dot, and they do start dating again. And to no surprise, he is still physically violent towards her. But they're still so much in love that they stay together, and they even end up getting married after he can't stay in Toronto. So, they do the whole get married to a citizen so he can stay thing. But that's when he beats her up pretty badly. And at first, she just tells her parents that she was mugged, and that's what they tell the cops, but eventually she does come forward and tell the truth. And Leo does get sent back to France, but before that, Dallas does help Allie confront him and just say everything that she needs to say to him, and then she never speaks in season again. So for the rest of the season, Allie is focused on school, and she enters into the science fair, and Dallas helps her out a lot with it. And the two of them finally start dating. All right, guys, let's talk about Drew in season 13 of Degrassi. So the girl drama that Drew gets into this season is ridiculous because he just does the same thing multiple times. So first, Bianca breaks up with him over Thanksgiving. Takes it a little hard, but in the end, it's okay. Then he starts having a fling with Zoe, who is 15, and just doesn't get that it's a fling and that they're not going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. But Drew just does not handle the situationship well at all. He thinks she understands that it's a fling. They have sex. She gets clingy. He breaks up with her, breaks things off with her since they weren't together or anything. And things escalated quite quickly. He doesn't think he does anything wrong. She is super upset about the whole situation. And then with Claire, they have feelings for each other. They think that they're going to get together. They hook up. Then he doesn't want to be her rebound. And so they don't take it any further. She is super upset about it. He doesn't think he's done anything wrong. And while all of this is happening, he's working for Miles's dad's campaign. And his wife starts coming on to Drew. This time he does the right thing and he tells the truth, but it does get him fired, which is terrible. But he does strong arm the dude and gets letters of recommendation and connects that could help him with his future. And luckily, in the end, Drew does see the error of his ways, at least with Claire, and he apologizes to her. Let's talk about Imogen in season 13 of Degrassi. So Imogen is still at Degrassi after all of her friends have graduated, and we see her go through kind of like what we saw Fiona go through as she tries to make a mark and be her own person and make it through the year. And so she is a part of student council. She becomes friends with Becky, and she even starts a little uprising concerning the dress code at Degrassi, and she ends up being able to rewrite it for the entire school. And in the end of the season, newcomer Jack comes in, and Becky is immediately attracted to her, and eventually they do start dating. Let's talk about Dallas in season 13 of Degrassi. Dallas starts the season on a downward spiral as he gets kicked off of the hockey team. He spends all of his time drinking and hooking up with girls and just ditching school. And that actually hurts Drew sometimes because they're partners on assignments and he doesn't show up and do his part. And when Drew tries to knock some sense into him, he even leaves and doesn't stay there for an extended period of time. But he does eventually get back on track and things start going well for him. We've seen him constantly asking Allie out, and especially when you consider everything that happened with Leo and her, she's not ready, and Dallas is really just there for her, being a friend, helping her through her healing process. And that's how he becomes her lab partner for her science fair project. I do want to mention the science fair because in those episodes, Dallas is racially profiled 3 times. 2 of them happened with Connor. And of course, he's human and he doesn't know what he can do. Should he forget about it? Should he brush it off? Should he yell and fight back at the person? He kind of tries all those things throughout the episodes, but it is Allie's dad who has a conversation with him and helps him get through it. And he does end up filing a police report on the officers that profiled him. And like I said in my previous video, he does start dating Allie by the end of the season. So let's talk about Becky in season 13 of Degrassi. So in the beginning of the season, it's kind of really chill with Becky. She's just a part of student council, being friends with Imogen, and helping her with Degrassi TV. With being a part of Degrassi TV, she wants to find a good story that she could do on there. And that leads her to a video of an incident that happened at a party that Miles had involving Zoe. And I'm going to speak more in depthly on that in the next video. But I do want to say that Becky starting this investigation on her own leads her to telling Simpson about it so that they can air it. But Simpson obviously sees how serious it is and involves the police. And Becky eventually learns that her brother is one of the culprits of the whole incident. And so now she's at the place where she knows her brother did this horrible thing, but she also wants to help Zoe, and she has to figure out what to do, and she does eventually turn her brother in. And then when there is a trial, she has to take the stand, and again, she's forced with the decision, does she lie in order to protect her brother because they're family, or does she tell the truth, which is the right thing? And unfortunately, and also not really shocking, her family wants her to protect her brother, but she just can't do it and risks her relationship with her parents and her brother being more at a rift than it already is at that point, and she tells the truth on the stand. And after all of it, her mom pretty much says right to her face that she doesn't think the family can come back from what Becky did. And so now she is basically rejected and ostracized from her family. And I have to commend Becky for doing the right thing. I did realize over the course of this season that she really was just this sheltered girl who wanted to do the right thing all the time and ended up in this very difficult situation. Thankfully, she did do the right thing. It's just unfortunate that her family is now rejecting her. Okay, friends, let's talk about Tristan in season 13 of Degrassi. Tristan this season becomes another one of the Degrassi students that has an inappropriate relationship with a teacher. Can you tell I don't like these storylines? So there's this new teacher, Mr. Yates, that comes to Degrassi, and Tristan likes him, but Tristan is more interested in getting into the writing collective that the teacher is doing with a select number of students of his choosing. Tristan does get into the collective, and Mr. Yates takes advantage of Tristan idolizing him, and he invites him over to his apartment. He gives him absinthe to drink, of all things. They kiss, and Tristan leaves before it gets taken any further, but they still continue on with their relationship. Now, Maya does find out, and she tells Simpson, and of course, Mr. Yates gets suspended, and there's going to be an investigation. And Tristan is so upset with Maya that she does this that he ends their friendship. And I'm just going to end it by saying this. I'm sick of seeing this storyline on this show. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the third teacher at Degrassi that's had an inappropriate relationship with a student. I hope that that's where it ends, but I have not seen next class, so I have no idea. Let's talk about Maya in season 13 of Degrassi. Now, I do want to start off by saying that Maya's relationship with Zoe is terrible in the beginning of the season, and Maya ends up getting suspended because of her actions towards Zoe, which sends her to the remedial room where she's with Sig now a lot, where she meets Grace. Maya is a meddler this season, but I do think it is rooted in her just wanting the best for her friends and caring for her friends, even if they don't see that in the moment. And now let's talk about her love triangle with Zig and Miles. So Zig still likes Maya and still wants to be with her. They spend a lot of time together because one, they're both in the remedial room, and two, we find out that Zig is not living at home. Maya gets in that situation and Zig ends up staying with her. And of course, Miles is jealous about that whole situation. Zig and Miles are constantly fighting over Maya, and as a result of all of that, Maya breaks up with Miles. But she kind of just strings Zig along and uses him liking her to keep him out of the gang that he's in, which is just a terrible way of going about that whole situation. And also, she still has feelings for Miles and wants to get back with him, even though she's stringing Zig along. Absolutely ridiculous. She does try to get back with Miles, but his actions lead to her breaking that off too because she says that he scares her because he gets in these modes when he's jealous and just does the extreme. At this point, I just feel like Maya needs to take some time away from boys as she's trying to get over Miles. She doesn't really know what she wanted between Zig and Miles, and she should just not think about either one of them. So let's talk about Zoe and the party situation in season 13 of Degrassi. So Miles has a party. Zoe gets very drunk, as this is off the heels of her situation with Drew, and she ends up waking up in Miles' pool house in just her bikini. So she doesn't remember anything that happened, but as time quickly goes on, video footage comes out of her being carried by Miles and Winston, and also there's video footage of what actually happened to her in their pool house. And obviously, this is a very difficult time for her. At first, there are a lot of people supporting her through this whole situation after it all comes out, and they help her have a better experience at the school after everything happened. But things do get worse when the trial happens because it's not just the media that is basically blaming Zoe, but her friends to her face are saying things like, well, you were asking people if you were sexy and you were drunk, and, basically kind of making it a little bit her fault that she got in that situation to begin with. Very unfortunate thing, but it's the reality that we live in. But luckily in the Degrassi world, the bad guys are found guilty. Now, these episodes were pretty hard to watch and unfortunately timeless because even though these were created years ago, it's still very much the reality that a lot of people are in today. And a lot of people don't have the outcome that Zoe got. Now let's talk about the season 13 finale of Degrassi. So a storm is coming, and we have a lot of stuff that happens over the course of these two episodes. So first off, there's supposed to be a school dance, and everyone remaining at the school during the storm had to shelter in place. So we learned that Drew and Becky are getting closer, and there's feelings there, and they get stuck in a closet during the storm, and there's also a gas leak. And they do eventually kiss, and after they get rescued and the storm is over, they start exploring their relationship. Just another unexpected pair, but she dated his brother. This is wild. Then we have Maya and Zoe and some Zig in there, as Zig said that he was going to go to the dance with both of them. And Maya gets drunk and runs off. Zoe goes after her. They get stuck at the dot. While at the dot, they're able to hash out everything and get it all out in the open. And they do eventually start getting on the mend with their relationship. Meanwhile, Tristan ends up at Miles's with Frankie and Winston, and Tristan and Miles kiss. Wild. And lastly, Claire goes to Columbia for her college interview. She misses it because she hits her head on a pole and passes out and has to go to the hospital. So she has to eventually stay with Eli. And they're just friendly with each other. But he does say that he's not over her. So she has the interview. It goes well. She heads back to Degrassi. While there, she gets a call from the hospital saying that she doesn't have a concussion. But they also tell her that she's pregnant. I don't understand how so many unexpected things can happen in 2 episodes, but I mean, this is Degrassi, so I really shouldn't be shocked. And that's our finale. That's how we end the season. So let me know what you thought of all of those insane events in the season 13 finale of Degrassi.